Breaking news tonight. Something absolutely catastrophic just unfolded in the corridors of power that has left Washington, D.C. reeling and the entire nation on the edge of total chaos. In the last 48 hours, President Donald J. Trump has been hit with what insiders are calling the most devastating legal blow of his entire political career, a coordinated strike from multiple fronts that has effectively cornered him with no escape route. This isn't just another scandal or another investigation. This is a systematic takedown orchestrated by forces inside his own party, the judiciary, and even elements within his former inner circle who have turned against him in spectacular fashion. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Just when you thought the storm couldn't get any worse for Trump, leaked documents surfaced this morning revealing something so explosive that it has sent shockwaves through every level of government. We're talking about classified communications, financial records that were supposed to remain buried forever, and testimony from witnesses who were thought to be untouchable. The walls are closing in faster than anyone predicted, and what happens next could literally reshape American politics for generations to come. The breaking event centers on a secret grand jury that has been operating in complete silence for the past 6 months. Nobody, not even Trump's most loyal allies, knew this was happening. Federal prosecutors working under sealed indictments managed to flip 3 of Trump's closest advisors, people who were in the room for some of the most controversial decisions of his presidency. These aren't low-level staffers or distant associates. We're talking about individuals who had direct access to Trump's private conversations, his financial dealings, and his strategic planning sessions. Their testimony, now unsealed and leaked to major news outlets, paints a picture of systematic obstruction, financial fraud, and what prosecutors are calling a deliberate conspiracy to undermine democratic processes. One particularly damning piece of evidence is a series of encrypted messages recovered from a secure server that Trump's team thought had been permanently wiped. These messages, dated between November 2024 and January 2025, show explicit discussions about moving assets offshore, destroying documents, and coordinating stories among potential witnesses. Legal experts are calling this a smoking gun, the kind of evidence that prosecutors dream about because it shows intent, coordination, and consciousness of guilt. The messages also reveal panic among Trump's inner circle, with references to needing to act fast before the walls close in completely. Adding fuel to this already raging inferno is the unprecedented betrayal from within the Republican Party itself. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has defended Trump through 2 impeachments and countless scandals, broke his silence this afternoon with a carefully worded statement that shocked political observers across the spectrum. While stopping short of calling for Trump's resignation, McConnell stated that all public servants must answer to the law and that no individual, regardless of position, stands above constitutional accountability. Political analysts immediately recognized this as McConnell distancing himself from Trump, a move that signals to other Republicans that it's now safe to abandon ship. Behind closed doors, the mutiny is even more dramatic. According to multiple sources who spoke on condition of anonymity, a group of approximately 20 Republican senators held an emergency meeting last night at an undisclosed location outside Washington. The purpose? To discuss contingency plans for removing Trump from any position of influence within the party and to strategize about damage control heading into the 2026 midterms. Attendees reportedly included several senators who publicly campaigned with Trump just months ago, but who now see him as a liability so toxic that association could cost them their seats. The betrayal cuts deepest from those who owed their careers to Trump's endorsement. Senator Josh Hawley, once considered a rising star in the MAGA movement, has gone completely silent on social media. His last post, from 3 days ago, was a generic statement about respecting judicial processes. Senator Ted Cruz, who famously fought for Trump during the 2020 election challenges, has canceled all upcoming appearances where Trump was expected to be mentioned or involved. Their silence speaks volumes. When your staunchest defenders go quiet, you know the end is near. Now let's talk about the legal cascade that's been triggered by these revelations. The grand jury's findings have activated a series of automatic enforcement mechanisms that Trump cannot stop, delay, or negotiate his way out of. First, the Justice Department has filed formal contempt charges for Trump's refusal to comply with subpoenas issued 6 weeks ago. Those charges carry mandatory penalties, including potential incarceration if a judge finds willful defiance. Second, the Treasury Department has frozen several accounts linked to Trump's business empire after evidence emerged suggesting possible money laundering and tax evasion schemes dating back over a decade. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars locked down, inaccessible, with forensic accountants now combing through every transaction. Third, and perhaps most devastating, is the civil forfeiture action filed by the federal government seeking to seize assets purchased with what prosecutors claim are proceeds from fraudulent activities. This includes several high-profile properties, luxury vehicles, and even artwork that Trump displayed prominently at Mar-a-Lago. Legal experts say that civil forfeiture cases have a lower burden of proof than criminal cases, meaning the government can seize assets based on preponderance of evidence rather than beyond reasonable doubt. If successful, Trump could lose a significant portion of his personal wealth even before any criminal trial begins. But wait, because the legal nightmare doesn't end there. State prosecutors in New York and Georgia have coordinated their efforts in an unprecedented show of interstate cooperation. New York's Attorney General announced this morning that her office is expanding its investigation into Trump's business practices to include potential RICO charges, the same statute typically used against organized crime syndicates. RICO allows prosecutors to charge individuals not just for specific crimes, but for participating in a criminal enterprise, and it comes with enhanced penalties and the ability to target multiple defendants simultaneously. Meanwhile, in Georgia, the Fulton County District Attorney has secured additional indictments related to attempts to overturn the 2020 election results. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. New evidence presented to the grand jury includes recordings of phone calls that contradict Trump's previous testimony under oath. Perjury charges are now on the table, and legal analysts say these could be the easiest to prove and the hardest to defend against because the recordings are crystal clear and unambiguous. The political meaning of all this is absolutely profound. Trump's influence over the Republican Party, which seemed unshakable just 6 months ago, is evaporating in real time. Candidates who once begged for his endorsement are now scrubbing his name from their campaign materials. Fundraising emails that previously featured his image prominently now focus on generic conservative themes without any mention of Trump. The shift is so dramatic that pollsters are calling it a political extinction event, the collapse of a personality-driven movement when the personality becomes radioactive. Public opinion polls released just hours ago show Trump's approval rating among Republicans has dropped to 52%, down from 78% at the start of the year. Among independents, the number is even more catastrophic, hovering around 23%. Perhaps most telling is the erosion among his core base. In rural counties that gave Trump overwhelming victories in previous elections, Support has softened significantly, with many voters expressing fatigue, disappointment, and a desire to move on to new leadership. Global reactions are pouring in with a mix of concern and barely concealed satisfaction from adversaries. European leaders, while diplomatically restrained in public statements, are privately relieved that Trump's chaotic influence on transatlantic relations may finally be ending. NATO officials have quietly resumed long-term strategic planning that had been on hold due to uncertainty about U.S. commitments. In Asia, allies like Japan and South Korea are recalibrating their security partnerships, no longer willing to bet everything on Trump's unpredictable foreign policy instincts. But adversaries are watching closely, too. Russian state media has coverage that oscillates between mocking the chaos and expressing concern about who might replace Trump, someone potentially more hawkish toward Moscow. Chinese analysts are gaming out scenarios where a weakened or removed Trump creates opportunities for Beijing to assert itself more aggressively in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. The global power dynamics are shifting in real time, all because one man's legal troubles have destabilized the world's largest democracy. Markets are responding with severe volatility. The Dow Jones dropped 600 points in morning trading before recovering slightly, but uncertainty continues to weigh heavily on investor confidence. Currency traders are dumping dollars in favor of safer assets like gold and Swiss francs. Bond yields have spiked as investors demand higher returns to compensate for political risk. Analysts warn that if this crisis extends beyond a few weeks, the economic damage could rival major historical shocks, potentially triggering a recession just as the economy was showing signs of strong growth. Behind the scenes, the strategy being employed by Trump's opponents is methodical and ruthless. This isn't a haphazard attack. It's a coordinated campaign designed to cut off every avenue of escape, legal, financial, and political. The timing of leaks is carefully calibrated to maximize damage and maintain constant pressure. Documents are released in waves, ensuring that each news cycle brings fresh revelations that prevent Trump from regaining his footing or controlling the narrative. Sources close to the prosecutorial teams describe the approach as death by 1,000 cuts, overwhelming Trump's legal team with simultaneous battles on multiple fronts so that resources are stretched thin and mistakes become inevitable. One former federal prosecutor explained that this tactic forces defendants to make strategic choices about where to focus their defense, and every choice means conceding ground somewhere else. It's a trap designed to produce either cooperation or collapse. Insiders say Trump's inner circle has been reduced to a skeleton crew of family members and a handful of lawyers who haven't yet abandoned him. Staff departures from Trump's various offices and organizations have accelerated dramatically, with employees citing hostile work environments, legal liability concerns, and simply not wanting to be associated with a sinking ship. Some former staffers are reportedly cooperating with investigators in exchange for immunity, providing information about Trump's business practices, communications, and state of mind during critical decision-making periods. The pressure is showing in Trump's public behavior as well. Recent Truth Social posts have become increasingly erratic, with all-caps rants about witch hunts, deep state conspiracies, and traitors within his own party. The tone has shifted from defiant confidence to something that reads more like desperation mixed with rage. Political psychologists who study communication patterns note that this kind of escalation often precedes either total breakdown or a dramatic capitulation. So where does this all lead? The endgame scenarios are narrowing rapidly, and none of them look good for Trump. Scenario 1 is full legal accountability, meaning indictments, trials, and potentially convictions that result in significant prison time. Multiple jurisdictions pursuing multiple charges dramatically increase the odds that at least some convictions will stick, even if Trump manages to beat some cases. Scenario 2 is a negotiated plea deal where Trump agrees to withdraw permanently from politics, pay massive fines, and possibly serve limited jail time in exchange for avoiding the most serious charges. Prosecutors might prefer this outcome because it's faster and guarantees some level of accountability without the risk of jury trials. Scenario 3, and perhaps the most fascinating, is total political exile, where Trump becomes so toxic that he's effectively erased from the party he once dominated. This doesn't require any legal convictions, just continued erosion of support, until he's a pariah that nobody wants to associate with. In this scenario, Trump might avoid prison, but loses everything that mattered to him most: power, influence, and legacy. What's absolutely clear right now is that Trump is facing the fight of his life, and he's losing on every front simultaneously. The legal system is functioning exactly as designed, grinding forward with methodical precision. His political support is collapsing as allies calculate that loyalty to Trump is career suicide. His financial empire is under assault from regulators and prosecutors who smell blood in the water. And the court of public opinion, which Trump once commanded so effectively, has turned against him as fatigue sets in and people simply want to move on. This is history being written in real time. The test of whether American institutions can hold a powerful individual accountable is underway, and so far the system is passing that test. Every day brings new revelations, new defections, new legal setbacks that tighten the noose. The question is no longer whether Trump survives this. The question is how much damage he does on the way down, and what lessons the nation learns from watching one man's spectacular fall from grace. All Trial Information Politics News.